Brian Roisentul here. I'm the host of the Fit Growth Machine, where I talk with top leaders in the fitness industry. I have here Dr. Jeremy Weiss, here of Rise 25, who has done thousands of interviews with successful entrepreneurs and CEOs. And now we have flipped the script, and he will be interviewing me.
Brian, thanks for having me. I'm really excited because when I talk to you, we're really talking about how companies can grow, right? And one of the things we're going to talk about today is you worked with Orangetheory. I mean, you worked with a lot of fitness brands, e-commerce brands, but one of the companies you have helped, one of the many is Orangetheory, and how you help them with growth. So I always love growth conversations. We're going to dig deep into that. And also, I want to point people towards other episodes of your podcast. One of them that's notable is Julius Caesar Fuentes, who, qualified for the Olympics. He couldn't reach an agreement with the government. So he took out his swimming, and this is for, he qualified for the Olympics for Ecuador for swimming. He decided to swim in a competition, Alcatraz, and holds the record today. And I remember, Brian, going to Alcatraz and being like, I can't believe people actually swim this. I think they're shark infested waters. It looks like a really tough, a tough swim. So people can check out other episodes as well. But before we dig into Orangetheory and what you did with them, the episode is brought to you by BSR Digital. And I know, Brian, at BSR Digital, you help e-commerce brands that want to scale their business to get to the next level. And you do it through paid advertising, Facebook, Instagram, Google ads. And I know you work with a lot of e-commerce brands to grow their sales and also put in a solid plan. And you've helped more than 1,000 e-commerce brands like, Orangetheory and other fitness brands grow their businesses and surpass their competitors. So if people have questions, they can go to bsrdigital.com or email at hello@bsrdigital.com. So Brian, let's get into Orangetheory for a second. First of all, how do they find you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as you probably know, I have a lot of partners, actually agencies that refer me a lot of work, and I have had great partners along the way, and actually they came through one of those, one of those partners.
So talk to me about that for a second. What type of agencies tend to refer you people?
Yeah, all kind of agencies. They can either do what I do, but they don't have the capacity or the manpower to do that themselves. So they actually ask me to white label their services, or it could be actually a complementary service, such as design agencies, Shopify development, or any other that have clients, that need my services, to grow their company, get traffic to their website, get leads, or get purchases. Yeah.
That makes sense. So like web development companies doing an e-commerce build, Shopify, Magento, BigCommerce, and they're like, now that they have a website, they need traffic. And so they call you to introduce you to their client.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, okay. So you get introduced to Orangetheory, which if people haven't heard, it's a huge chain all over in the US. I'm not sure if it's international. But so what was their situation when they came to you?
Yeah, actually, they were hurting pretty bad with the lead gen in multiple locations. Actually, I have worked for around 20 locations of them, and yeah, the all of their locations are pretty different in terms of the demographics, right? So there are some locations that are pretty crowded, residential, some other in commercial areas, not so crowded, and yeah, they were hurting with the lead gen, so they came to us to actually fix that problem. Yeah.
Talk about the strategy, because I know, and I say this, in lead gen, especially with gyms, it's very competitive. So if you can actually do well, I feel like lead gen for gyms, you could be in a lot of different spaces. What was some of the, and I know you're big on strategy, what was some of the strategy that you worked on to be the foundation of the campaigns?
Exactly. So as you said, it's very difficult, more than people might think. When you work with a chain like this, you might think that regardless of the location, everything will be the same, right? Same audience, same problems, same solutions, and probably it's the opposite, right? Because they have multiple locations, same brands, same everything, but each location has different problems and different solutions. What worked before I took over in one location didn't work in the other ones, right? So there wasn't like an easy fix. So when we identified that issue, we actually needed to come up with a solution, right, with a proper plan. So the first thing we did is actually to uh, get information from the company, to ask them questions about the different demographics that they had in each of the locations that we were working on, right? And understanding their problems, right? Where they going after work, before work, or they going actually when they got home, or in the weekends, in the week, in the mornings, in the nights, right? So were they working in tech? Were they working in some other spaces? Because we had some demographics, some locations that they had like tech parks, with offices around tech nearby, and some offices with law firms, so it was a different demographic. And the challenge with these type of brands, with local businesses, is that you have a limited like mile
Like a
radius from,
radius, yeah. People aren't going
yeah.
to travel, like, especially in a urban area, they're going to travel 30 miles. I mean,
Exactly. So as you said, we needed to come with a plan that was actually different for each of the locations, because one location was interested in one thing, not only the audience, but the message. That's why we put together, we think of the audiences, but we also think of the messages for those audiences, right? It's not enough with the audiences, right? It's not that uh, it's not a one fit all recipe, right? So in this case, we made sure that the message actually resonated with what they wanted and their pain points.
so the first thing you do, you go in, you learn about the demographics and about the audience. And then from that, you can put together messaging that's going to speak to that particular demographic and audience. And what do you typically do next?
Yeah, exactly. So next we start testing the hypothesis, right? Because up to to that point are all hypotheses. So what we do is to start testing in an efficient way to avoid burning the client's budget, right? As most probably companies or freelancers do. So what we try to do is to make the most out of the client's budget and to test in an efficient way. And after we are done testing, we actually move to the scaling phase, right? We scale the best performing efforts to make sure that because the clients would love to have like cheap, let's say, leads and qualified leads, quantity and quality. But then they want to grow, right? They want more leads and more, because they have all these sales teams like hungry for leads in order to get members, right? So we, before scaling up, we make sure that we have a solid foundation in place, and then we do it.
Talk about the testing phase for a little bit, because I know a lot goes into the testing phase. There's probably messaging, there's images. Talk about what kind of the things that you're testing in that phase.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. So in this case, what we tested are both audiences and then, of course, messages. When we test one thing, we try to have that variable as the only one of the in the equation, right? We want all the other factors fixed, so we can make sure that we are making an impact with that variable. So if we start testing audiences, we are going to start testing them with the same message, right? And when we test messages, the opposite, right? We are going to have that as a variable and have the other factors fixed. So we created a couple of campaigns to actually go through the audience testing and see which of those perform the best in terms of, I don't know, I don't want to get into the weeds of the technicalities, but just to mention a few, to make sure that the cost per click is fine, the click-through rate, which is if people are liking the ads, and clicking through the ads, is good enough. And then of course the cost per lead, all stuff. And then we did the same with the with the message. And we don't need to forget, because this is a common mistake that people very often forget about the funnel. On funnels, are one of the most important variables in the equation, and people only consider is probably the either the audience, the message, or the author, and probably it's neither of those. It's the funnel. So when we pay attention at what probably funnel converted the most, we tested Facebook forms, we tested landing pages, we tested different forms of landing pages with different messages, with different social proof. So we are all about testing.
Yeah. So when you say funnel, so you've done the demographics and audience, you've actually tested, you put together copy that speaks to the audience, you've put together a specific, audience that I'm not sure how granular you get, like a mom that likes yoga that lives within a 2 mile radius, like that kind of, you probably get who likes golden retrievers. I don't know how granular you get with it, but then when they click on that, then that's when you guys look at okay, what's that landing page look like? What's the form look like? Because if you do all that work up to that point and then it's not congruent or it's not optimized, then the person is going to drop off and all your effort is lost.
Exactly. So let me give you a quick example to clarify that point. This is a different client, different industry, but it will clarify probably what you asked. So in this case, it was more of a chiropractor, but it's probably the same logic. They have a well-defined location, radius, to target, and people have different pain points, such as in the fitness industry, right?
Literally,
So in
yeah.
this case, I'm sorry.
Literally, with a chiropractor, they have pain points. Yes.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah.
So in this case, what we focus on is not on the brand. We focus on the audience, on what they want, right? So the before they hire us, it was all about them, like any website, and we actually turned that into being about the audience. So the chiropractor, as you know, people go there in pain and they want the pain to be fixed. But for what? For different reasons. Of course, they want the pain to go away because they are in pain and they don't want to be in pain anymore. But probably they want to go back to their activities. So through these questions, we asked this client in particular, we figured out that they had three main clients or type of clients. People who ran marathons, people who practice CrossFit or high impact, sports, people sitting in the desk all day long in their jobs. And the fourth one I forgot, but it was an important one: elderly people, right? People in pain who are probably elderly and they're in pain, right? So for all of them, we started actually trying to trigger the pain points. So for runners, all they want is to get out of pain to run their next marathon. CrossFitters want to go back to be training what they call the work of day, the WOD. So they want to be training back soon. So we started small, testing at the audience level, at the message level, but then we made the funnel, the landing page about them specifically, right? We had one for runners, one for CrossFitters, because all they wanted, of course, they wanted to be out of pain, but that was what any other chiropractor was promising, right? So going back to Orangetheory Fitness, you can find the correlation, right? It's the same thing. We identify tech people, we identify people in different industries. So they all want to get in shape, but it's not about the external factors only because they want to lose weight. There are some internal factors which actually are more important than the external ones. So why do they want to lose weight? Why do they want to go there? So there are different reasons. So we want to identify those. And that's why we team up with a client to work on them. And we actually want to test messages to address them, right?
That's really powerful, Brian, because when you get into the deeper reasons why people want to do something and you're focused on the audience, they also view you as a specialist, and it's like, oh wow, they serve lawyer or whatever it is, or tech people or CrossFitters, and they feel like they're spoken to in that respect. And so when you were working with Orangetheory, what were some of the things that you found? And you're almost like an audience whisperer in a sense, with finding the deeper reasons why people want to do something. Obviously people want to get in shape to go to Orangetheory. What were some of the other deeper things that you found, like why they wanted
Yeah,
to get in shape? What were
amazing.
some of the
Yeah,
things?
great question. Great question. And actually, one of the key reasons to someone to want to lose weight, and we have seen this with Orangetheory Fitness and with other clients in the fitness space, is some changes in their relationship status. Let's say they go single,
Hmm.
they divorce, or so they break up with the girlfriend or boyfriend. So there's a big change in their life, or whatever happened to them. They want actually to take action, right? That's self-esteem, right? It, you might not have. I mean, there's always a trigger for any decision we take. All of us as humans, we might not spot them all the time, but we are always triggered all the time. So what we do is to combine in the when we target people, their key interests related to the brand, but then we combine them with some key interest associated with the triggers. So one thing in this case could be life events, such as they went single. Some others could be, I don't know, someone passed away sadly, and they want to, they there's a big shock, or they had an accident, or whatever. Sometimes people feel that they are born again and they have a second shot. When so these things
Hmm.
happen, or sometimes they realize that they want women, for example, they want to get pregnant and they need to lose weight. So the reason is not to lose weight. Probably the reason is to get pregnant and be healthy. Or the doctor for men or women identify a certain disease, and they advise them cholesterol or whatever, and they advise them to do exercise. So the reason there is to be healthier, not to lose weight precisely, but to be healthier, to do better in the next check, and
There's a
to do
deep-seated reason why. And when you say it, it's so obvious, but it's not obvious when you think. That's not something that would have popped into my mind, but that makes sense. Like if someone goes single, like, well, I gotta get back out there, I gotta get in shape again. I let myself go, I was too comfortable in this relationship. But that makes perfect sense. There's these triggers, life events that happen. So what was the outcome working with Orange Theory? What were some of the things that you were able to do after, going through the demographics, the audience, testing the hypothesis, then starting to scale it?
Yeah, the short answer is growth. We have actually helped them grow almost 20 locations. A lot actually. They were what happened in these situations is that they reach a capacity, so we were actually happy that they were going through these scenarios in some of their locations. Some other locations were more challenging because, as I told you, probably their office is there, or probably uh no, actually, they people need to go drive into that location, and there are not a lot of people around. So we actually need to do a different action to make them go there, and think with the brand. We are involved with the brand to actually think solutions that probably are outside of the scope of our work as a marketer or as a media buyer. Let's say we are very involved in helping them think of solutions to their problems. The same thing I told you for the chiropractor example, that we position the chiropractor as a solution to their problems, and we position them as the guide and the vehicle. In this case, we do the same. They might be struggling more in some locations, or with some products. If you have an e-commerce store, it could be the same thing. You're struggling with some collections or products or categories, and we help you actually get out of that with some suggestions that we give with our team.
So, Brian, last question. First
Yeah.
of all, thanks for sharing your knowledge. I love to hear your thought process through this whole journey. And I want to encourage people to check out more episodes of the podcast. Go to bsrdigital.com, learn more. Last question is I'm wondering from, I know you work with a lot of e commerce brands, whether it's fitness or, they're selling some kind of digital or physical goods. How does this pathway stay the same or change as far as the audience demographics, testing, and then scaling? How does that, is it similar or same when working in e-commerce?
Yeah, great question. So basically, it's very different, and it starts by the commitment, right? If you want to put the ring on it, you actually need to put the ring on it, right? So if you want to buy something and you put your credit card on the website, That's a huge commitment. On the other hand, to leave your information on a website, anyone can do that, right? Of course, you need to be qualified, and we take care of that, but it's a different level of commitment, right? You might then convert or not. But when you actually need to make people or encourage people to leave their credit card details in a website they don't know, because most of brands are unknown, right? Small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and even for those that are, they compete in a different level. But that's a commitment. That's one thing. In terms of the demographics, you can in an e-commerce stores, as long as they want to, they can target like every region they want. They can target the whole country, many countries, and we help companies go international too, because we it requires a special plan and scaling process, and we take care of that too, right? So, but in a nutshell, yeah, it's pretty different, and we take care actually of analyzing the whole user journey from whether they click on the ad or not, up to the point of whether they added products to cart, initiated the checkout process, or bought, right? And we analyze where the leaks are or the drop off, and we actually take action based on that. It's the process is much more complex than and longer than for the lead gen. There could be many touch points. Probably it is set around 12 touch points with a brand before buying multiple devices, multiple touch points, multiple ad platforms. We do Facebook, we do Google, among others, right? And they could actually start the journey on Facebook. They see a Facebook or Instagram ad, but they are commuting, they are working or whatever, and then they remember about the brand and that they wanted to buy, and they perform a Google search and they find our brand through a Google ad or even organically, right? And you need to actually make the whole thing work as a team between the platforms too.
Nice. Brian, maybe we'll go deeper next time in the e-commerce world, but I love hearing this. Everyone check out bsrdigital.com. And Brian, thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.